A second flotilla arrived in the asteroid field. The sentry ship waited until the warships came within point-blank range before it identified itself. The incoming fleet recognized the sentry as one of their own and inquired about the location of the stealth asteroids. The sentry obliged. The flotilla entered the asteroid field and opened their airlocks. A second cadre of spacewalkers emerged, setting their sights on another space rock. They must have communicated with the first team because they worked much faster in comparison. Now, there were 7 stealth weapons. Chapter 19. 2 Conflicts. Trig spent several hours at Hunro Medical Center while his arm was repaired. He was very impressed by the repurposed Olenbar technology used in the process, much of which was seized during the Soothsayer War for Independence. The actual process of getting his arm fixed was very painful and drawn out, but when it was over, the break in Trig's left humerus bone was repaired. Trig was given a prescription of painkillers and advised to keep his arm in a sling for the next 2 days. "You'll have full use of your arm in about 3 days," Dr. Helford told him. "In the meantime, your mother says you have a friend nearby who might want to see you. Appia has offered to give you a ride. Her truck is out front." The person named Appia turned out to be the biggest surprise of the day for Trig. He was expecting Dr. Helford's daughter to be another Birkin. Instead, Trig, Kara, and Ponico all jumped with surprise when a blue-skinned Olenbar woman jumped out of an electric truck to greet them. "Bona dies," Appia said, speaking Olenbar for a moment before switching to Birkin. "Yes, I'm adopted, and don't apologize. Everyone gives me that look the first time they see me. I'm not gonna hurt anyone. I mean, look at me." Trig did look at her, quickly realizing that he could be attracted to Olenbar women as well as people from his own species. Appia was about 3 years older than Trig, perhaps 16 or 17 years old. Like all other members of her species, Appia was completely hairless. She was dressed in an unusual outfit, a tank top, cargo pants, and heavy-duty hiking boots. Appia looked like she was about to do some hard labor unrelated to her father's medical work. Trig, Kara, and Ponico clambered into Appia's truck and she drove onto the main road. While Trig and Kara sat together in the back seat, Ponico and Appia had a conversation that Trig could overhear. "My pop told me about those guys who chased you out of the Grand Historia," Appia said. "I think I know who they were." "Really?" Ponico replied. "I did not realize your father was letting you join his work these days." You've missed a few things since your last visit," Appia told him. "Things have changed. We've seen your people on the move, but ours are busy too." As she spoke, Appia gestured to the left. Trig, Ponico, and Kara looked out the window. Trig spotted what Appia was talking about. Yet another Valdemar civil defense post, where bladed and blunt weapons were being distributed to Valdemar people. A short distance away from the tent, a group of Birkin men were watching the civil defense post intently. Appia drove on. "Okay, so, Ponico, you already know about what my pop and I do. What about these two?" "They don't know, but they need to know," Ponico replied. "You should explain." "Fine," Appia replied. "Listen up, you two. You know Ponico is part of a mercenary team, right?" "Sure," Trig and Kara replied together. "Kind of figured that out myself," Trig added. "Do you know what his team is doing with the money they take?" Both mother and son shook their heads. "Ponico's team is raising money for the SLA." "SLA?" Trig repeated. "Holy Aria, they know nothing," Appia swore. Then she explained. "SLA is the Soothsayer Liberation Army. We're what's the word?" "Paramilitary," Ponico chimed in helpfully. Your colony paid us about 15 million somanis to defend them for a year. We kept about 3 million for ourselves and sent the rest onto the SLA. Also, turn left here. Appia twitched the steering wheel. Trig let out a low whistle, finally understanding how the R4 mercenaries could afford to stock their vessel with so much food. Yeah, that's us. Paramilitary, Appia said. We're a bunch of Birkin, TS, Olenbar, Nagyari, and telepaths who want to get rid of the Valdemar regime. Trig was fascinated and leaned forward in his seat. So, you're an army, he said. How are you hiding an army in the city? Appia laughed. There's like less than 50 of us on the whole planet. No, the SLA is on Lightwater, waiting for the signal to strike. The Emperor and his secret police can't touch us on an MSI world. They're on Tenna's moon? Trig muttered to himself. Cantor and I have known which way the wind was blowing for a while, Ponico admitted. We knew that once the Great Khan fell, it was only a matter of time before Vestum and the Valdemar faced a rebellion. Glossum, Rulon, Selborn, everyone on our little team, we all know the score. But if Elix and the remnants of the Horde are up to something, then it will throw everything into jeopardy. So what's the plan? Appia asked. First things first, take us to the Winding Water. We need to pick up Tenna before we head to the Soothsayer, Ponico said. Before this day, the only river Trig had ever seen in his life was the murky brown tributaries that ended in Eddleton City. He gazed open-mouthed at the mighty blue waterway that seemed to cut a path right through the heart of Venka Urbo. Then something else caught his attention. So, I'm giving all of my money to the goddess Ray, Trig gasped aloud. A 200-meter stretch of the riverbank was overrun with women and girls. Dozens of Valdemar girls, dressed in white outfits, were wading into the river, each one guided by an older woman. Valdemar men stood by on the shore, delivering towels and clean clothes to those who emerged from the water. Collapsible blinds made of solid wood were strategically placed around the area, ready to serve as portable dressing rooms. Finally, a group of Valdemar men walked the length of the beach, holding out bowls made of some chromatic metal. As they walked, the men told onlookers that they were from a nearby mega-church, collecting donations for the goddess Ariha. Perfect weather for the Termin, Ponico remarked as he withdrew a small communicator from his pocket and spoke into it. Selborn, Bronley, is the Honora girl done yet? I want to take her to the Soothsayer now. Just finishing now, Bronley's voice replied. Trig looked out the window and spotted Bronley and Selborn. They waited for Tenna to emerge from the river. Like the others, she had gone into the water fully dressed. Selborn took Tenna by the hand and used a pitcher to pour water over her head, then guided Tenna to one of the aforementioned portable dressing rooms. Only a few minutes later, Tenna rocketed out and ran for a few dozen meters in the wrong direction before Selborn shouted and pointed out Appia's truck to her. Trig shifted over in the back seat to let Tenna in, mentally planning how he was going to compliment her appearance. But as soon as she entered the truck, Trig's mother suddenly shouted, "Oh no, no way!" With much grunting and straining, Kara rearranged herself in the back of the truck so that she was now seated between Trig and Tenna, leaving each of the teenagers with a window seat. What? Why? Trig complained. Well, she's all wet, Kara said, unconvincingly. This was true. Tenna seemed to have skipped drying off and gone straight to changing clothes. She was drenched from head to toe. Her red hair and white dress stuck to her body as though glued in place, and Kara was trying to stop Trig from getting an eyeful, at least until she dried off a little more. Appia turned around in the driver's seat, spotted Tenna, and then threw a jacket at her. "Girl, cover yourself up," Appia snapped. thinking you're all that now that you're purified. I swear, Voldemort girls are getting stupider and stupider every year. At least make yourself presentable for the Soothsayer. Manius is a very renowned seer, Ponico said sternly. You will take him seriously, and treat my friend with the proper respect when you get there. Okay, fine, Tenna said, folding her arms. For what it's worth, I think you look good, Trig said to her. Tenna leaned forward and talked across Kara's chest. Trig, you're never going to believe this. While I was getting my term in, a guy came up to me and he said, You look so much like Prime Minister Vestum. You know, the Emperor's wife? Anyway, he said something like, I can't let you get away, and then he chose me as his Aethera, right there in front of everyone. All 4 of the people in the truck gasped. Appia put the truck in park and turned around to face Tenna. Well, don't stop there, girlie. Tell us what happened. Did you pick him in return? No, Tenna replied in a dramatic tone. I was planning to pick someone else to be my Aethera. I told him that and then ran to finish my term in. I just left him there on the shore. That explains why I saw Anfel comforting someone, Ponico remarked. Little girl, you do know what you just did, right? By Voldemort tradition, that man must remain devoted to you for the rest of his life now. You are the only partner he can have. Like, I know, okay? I know, Tenna whined. But I really wanted to pick someone else for myself. Then she folded her arms, sulking. And don't ask me who. I want to tell them in like a private, romantic moment. Suit yourself, Appia sighed. She turned on the electric engine and started to drive the truck back into the city. I'm taking you all to see Manius the Soothsayer now. Roll down your window so you dry yourself off before you get there. Tenna leaned forward in her seat again, trying to figure out if Trig was ogling her. He was. Wait, did you say I looked good? Tenna asked. Exasperated, Kara threw Appia's jacket over Tenna. Dry off already, Kara hissed. Then she turned her face into a worried expression, aimed at Ponico. We already have 2 conflicts on our hands, the old mercenary said. Let's get some advice from Manius. Then we can worry about other concerns.